What's going on, guys? This is Carter Karels, Texas A&M beat writer for GigEm 247. I'm here at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee. Texas A&M just lost 20-13 to the Volunteers. Here to give my thoughts about the game. I'm going to be honest, this is probably TMI, but like 15 minutes before recording this, I felt really sick. I threw up. You know, I've kind of been dealing with the bubonic plague, it feels like, for the last 3 weeks, but honestly, it may have to do with the game that I just watched, if I'm being perfectly honest, because my goodness, I can't find the words exactly, just a very bad performance for the Aggies. And really, I think the worst thing about this loss for Texas A&M was so many of the problems are problems that they had last week against Alabama in their 26-20 loss in Kyle Field. Let's just run right through them, right? The offensive line can't protect the quarterback. The offensive line can't get enough push for the running backs to get much in the running game. The offensive line can't do anything in short yardage situations. Max Johnson holds onto the ball too long. Max Johnson can't find the receivers down the field. And, you know, Anaya Smith, 1 catch, 20 yards. Evan Stewart, 4 catches on 12 targets for 48 yards. They were throwing to him, but they couldn't connect to him today. Noah Thomas, I will say, you know, he flashed today, had a couple really big catches, but he had been non-existent for the previous few games because of his nagging injuries. So that's the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side, what was discouraging was, what had been so bad about this defense was its secondary, and what had been so good about it was its pass rush and what it had done against the run. Well, this is the one game where it was the opposite. Joe Milton is terrible. I mean, he was really bad today. He hasn't played, he's played okay this season, but he hasn't shown or lived up to the preseason hype that so many people put on him. 11 of 22, 100 yards, interception, touchdown. Joe Milton easily could have lost this game from Tennessee, but A&M couldn't defend the run. It looked like last year's A&M run defense, and really the biggest thing with A&M's defense, if you look under DJ Durkin, and really DJ Durkin before A&M, he can stop one aspect of the opposing offense. He can stop the pass, but then he can't stop the run. Or he can stop the run, but he can't stop the pass. And so, you know, does it matter if Joe Milton only threw for 100 yards if the running game is going for 250 plus? Maybe not. Does it matter if, you know, Bama can't find much of a running game against A&M, but they've got all these 30-yard pass plays down the field, and Joe Milton's having the Jalen Milroe is having the game of his life? You know, it's kind of, if you get badly beaten one way or the other one doesn't really matter as much as how good you do. So unless you can stop both or not get beat badly in both, the other one doesn't matter. And especially when you don't have Edgerrin Cooper in the second half, I mean, that really hurt this defense as far as stopping the run and really generating those difference-making plays. At the same time, though, I can't fault the defense much for this loss. It's really on the offense and special teams. That's another one. Nick Constantino had a 24-yard punt tonight. I think he had a 30-yard punt tonight. He had the punt from the back of the end zone that was kind of a bad, low-hang time 39-yard punt that they returned for a touchdown. They had to max protect, so they didn't really have good punt coverage on it. And that was a huge swing in the game. And then you had the missed field goal from Randy Bond. Not sure why you're kicking a field goal in that situation. Randy Bond has not shown you that he can make a single field goal outside of 40, 45 yards. He's just not that kind of player. And that's not even to mention their issues as far as blocking field goals. They've had 3 this year. But so offense, to me, I just got to go back to this because think about this. The game couldn't have started better for A&M. They start off the game, they get a stop. Then they go right down the field. They had the huge Le'Veon Moss run. You're thinking, okay, they're running the ball, all right. Noah Thomas has a huge catch. You're like, man, Noah Thomas, like this is the guy I remember from that New Mexico game. And then, Max Johnson runs for the 2-yard touchdown, and you're thinking, all right, here we go again. This offense has scored on the first drive of every game except the Bama game. And in that game, it was they didn't get it because they decided to not kick a field goal and went for it on 4th and 1 instead. So this team has started games extremely well, and you got to give them credit for that. What they've done poorly is adjust. They have been absolutely dreadful in the second half. And before I get to that, again, great start, 7-0. Then you give it to Tennessee again, and they turn it over on downs in your territory. And this defense really all game was kind of bend, don't break. They gave up a lot of yards, but they didn't give up a lot of points. Tennessee then goes on its next drive and scores a touchdown to make it 7-7. After that, A&M's defense didn't give a touchdown up for the rest of the game. It was, I think I counted, Tennessee had 7 or 8 trips. I think it was 7 inside of A&M's 40-yard line, and they only got 7 points, or I guess 13 points out of it. That's pretty dang good. I think they went empty in 2 of their possessions in the red zone. Tennessee really could have easily lost this game with how poorly their offense did with finishing drives and Joe Milton making mistakes. He had that interception in the red zone that Josh DeBerry had. Just threw it right at him. So really it was on the offense today to capitalize on the lack of scoring that Tennessee had. You really only had to get to 20, 24 points. And look, I hate to, I hate to brag about this, and I'm not trying to brag about it or whatever, and I'm not happy. I'm not like, oh man, I can't believe I got it right. But I predicted a 20-13 Tennessee win. I was spot on. And what I wrote was, this is the game where all of A&M's troubles on offense, I mean, we knew they existed, but they're going to really look bad. And they're going to really struggle on offense, and it's going to have them enter the bye week kind of in need of addressing some things. And that's kind of what happened. There's other things I haven't even mentioned yet. You have a center who can't snap the ball. I mean, there were 8 snaps today that went into the ground and gave Max Johnson a disadvantage as soon as the play started. Max Johnson's having to pick it up, lose his focus, put his eyes on the ground, backpedal. You're putting him at such a disadvantage at the very beginning of the snap. That's not to mention the 4th and 1 where Max Johnson, I think it was Bryce Foster, it may have been Landon Robinson, but I'm pretty sure it was Foster, who stepped on his foot, and it caused him to trip on that 4th and 1 when he was under the center. But it's just ineptitude through this offense. And I mean, look, you're missing Connor Wigman, right? You're missing your starting quarterback. You're missing your starting tight end and Donovan Green. He was going to be a really important piece on this team. Noah Thomas hasn't been 100%. And, you're missing your right tackle in Ruben Fothery. That's been another hole on this team. Chase Basanis and Demetrius Crownover kind of split time there today, and neither played particularly well. And so, I get the injury thing, but, once you're in year 6 and, you're an injury away from just total ineptitude, there's really no excuse for that. And, we heard all offseason about this offense and Bobby Petrino and all this, but the adjustments are just flat out not there. I looked through the last 3 second halves that Texas A&M has played. So we're talking about Tennessee, Alabama, and Arkansas. 3 halves, they've had 21 drives. Of those 21 drives, this is for the Texas A&M offense, not special teams, not a pick 6, nothing like that was counted. You had 21 drives, 3 of them resulted in the field goals. You had 9 points in 21 drives across 3 second halves. 9 points, 6 turnovers. So you had 9 points and 6 turnovers in those 21 drives. And then, off the top of my head, I think it was 7 punts. You had the safety, you had a turnover on downs, and you had 3 missed field goals. That is flat out embarrassing. 9 points. 9 points. You're not going to win a single game against a good team, much less on the road, when you play like that in the second half. Let's highlight another thing. This is the 8th straight road loss for Texas A&M. I think the first thing I wrote in my prediction was, until A&M wins on the road, I'm going to pick against them, because they just have not shown that they can handle that a raucous environment. They haven't shown that they can communicate up front and kind of handle adversity. And you saw that today. You saw it really spiral there in the second half. It's 8 straight road losses. For Jimbo Fisher, he is now 0-9 since the last time he beat a ranked opponent away from home in a true road game. It was 2016 when he was at Florida State, when they beat Miami. He has been 0-9 since then. And so, look, 2 more ranked opponents this season, Ole Miss and LSU, both on the road. And you're going to your bye week 4-3. I mean, if history repeats itself, you're looking at 7-5 at best this season. And with the amount of money and the amount of investment into this program, that is just not acceptable in year 6. Yeah, I was talking with Wes Rucker at Go Vols 247. Really great guy. If you want to check out his stuff, absolutely do that. He was just talking to me on this podcast before the game saying, I can't believe that a program with this much investment and the location they're in for recruiting and geography and all that, with the money they have, with the culture, and just, they have everything you could want to succeed. He's like, how in the world have they lost 4+ games in every year besides 2020? That's just crazy. Like, if he had told you that going into the Jimbo era by year 6, that's crazy. And you're 1 loss away from making it 5 out of 6. 4+ losses in all those seasons. You just can't do that. And you look at this team, I think the most infuriating thing about that, not only does this team have the talent to win 9+ games, but they've got the schedule and the strength of opponents and weakness of the conference this year. And you look around this conference and, Arkansas stinks, Auburn stinks, Mississippi State stinks, Ole Miss, okay, decent enough to be ranked, but are they a world beater? No. LSU, they got holes in them. They can't defend at all. Every single team they face puts up 40+ on them. And then Alabama, we know they're not unbeatable. So you look around. I was thinking today watching Tennessee. It may not be apparent now, because I think they came into this game as kind of one of the more enigmatic teams in the SEC, because they hadn't really played anybody very good. But this 3-week stretch of A&M, Alabama, and Kentucky, you're going to learn a lot more about them. And I just don't think they're that great of a team. Their quarterback's not that great. They can run the ball well. Their offense is good enough, but I just don't see them being more than a 8-4, 9-3 maybe team. In a strong SEC year, they'd be worse than that. But they ain't beating Georgia. I don't know if they're going to beat Bama and Tuscaloosa. You're probably talking about an 8-4 team by the end of the year. And so I think this loss is not going to age well for Texas A&M. And you go into a bye week now before you play South Carolina at home, and you have so many things that you need to address that I've already mentioned. And I think the most frustrating thing about that is these have been things that have needed to be addressed for a while, and they're not being addressed. Offensive line issues. They've tried to make changes there, but nothing seems to be working. I don't really need to go down the list, but it's just going to be a soul-searching bye week, I think, because after a loss like this, you just know that, hey, if the team doesn't handle this well like last year, it could really spiral. There is a lot of pressure on this team. After the Miami and Alabama losses, the thought was, hey, like Miami, like after the Miami loss, it was like, okay, hey, their season's still in front of them. It's a weak SEC. They can still get to 10 wins, et cetera, et cetera. After the Bama loss, now I thought that was a very disappointing loss, a very missed opportunity, but you still said, hey, Bama can still lose 2 games in the SEC, and A&M can still get to 9-3, 10-3, you know, they can still get there. There's just no margin for error now. They've got to win all of these toss-up games. And now you've seen in their 3 toss-up games, Miami, Alabama, and Tennessee, they've lost all of them. And so what can give you confidence that they're going to win any other toss-up game this season? I don't know if there's a lot of confidence. LSU and Ole Miss are not going to be easy for this team to beat. So, you know, I say all this, I know it sounds very negative, but hey, there's a reason why I threw up, right? It is beyond fixing at this point. 3 losses before your bye week? I mean, you're looking at 9-3 at best, and I just don't see them getting there. There are too many problems for them to fix, and you kind of have to start working toward next season. You got to start, you know, seeing if Bryce Foster is somebody that you think has, you know, a future here for next season, as far as, is this guy still your long-term guy at center? You have to look and see, hey, is Ruben Owens good enough to be a potential, you know, starter next year? Can he show some improvement toward the end of the season that can show you that, hey, this guy is going to live up to that hype that he had as a recruit? I certainly think he has that capability. There are things that are still out there to learn about this team, and I think there's still meaning behind this season because of that. And we've talked about the opportunity that A&M has next season with the easier schedule, no Bama, no Georgia. We've talked about, you know, their 3 biggest games, Notre Dame, Texas, LSU, all at home, 12-team playoff for the first time. So, like, you don't want to totally throw away this season. You don't want to say, like, hey, like, let's just mail it in. You got to build towards something, especially with Texas and OU joining the conference. So, anyway, I feel like I'm rambling at this point. It's a tough night for Aggie fans, I know. It's a tough night for me. I'm really glad I didn't throw up again during this segment. So praying for you guys. Y'all pray for me and hope that I don't continue to get sick. It's been a rough few weeks for me, but I know it's been rough for you guys too. So wish I could give y'all a hug. I like to say that after losses. I know how tough it is. I read the message boards. It's tough, man. This much investment in a program, this much money in a program, this much going for you guys, this much talent, and this is the product that's on the field. It's really disappointing. I totally get it. And after a loss like this, you can't really sugarcoat that. This Tennessee team is not really that great. In a year-over-year basis, this isn't like the Tennessee team we saw last year. So I totally get it, guys, and I appreciate y'all watching. It's fun here. The atmosphere at Neyland Stadium was awesome. And I'll see you guys, not next week because that'll be the bye week, but I'll see you guys back at Kyle Field for A&M South Carolina. Thank you, guys.